Hello there. We're going to talk about boundaries today, something that a lot of people have difficulty with, and this is something I came up with to help some of my clients. So let's jump in. Boundaries aren't something that we're born with. They have to be taught to us. It's not something that we have an innate knowledge of. And hopefully they are modeled to us in a healthy way. They can be modeled in an unhealthy way, but we hope for boundaries are simply a means of separation. They separate what's okay, what's not okay, what's allowed, what's not allowed, what you'll tolerate, what you won't tolerate. Some people even break it down into good versus bad, right versus wrong, all that kind of stuff. Boundaries should be flexible based on the person, the place, the circumstance. There needs to be some flexibility um, in the in your boundaries. Uh, Rigid and diffuse means rigid boundaries are very clear, they're very well defined. Diffuse boundaries aren't. So the more defined they are, the better they operate. The less defined they are, the more confusion there is. Boundaries, back to the idea of separation, it separates me from you. Like a fence keeps a cow on one side and not the other side. It's really boundaries are the mechanism through which we are able to have healthy relationships and healthy communication with other people. That's what boundaries are for. They're not walls. Some people try to engage relationships using walls, like ignoring a person. That would be a form of a wall, not a boundary. And if that's what is employed by somebody, they're not using boundaries. They're ignoring. It's really a negative control mechanism, is what it is. Boundaries are also not selfish. Some people believe that um, people who use boundaries are being arrogant. They're acting better than everybody else. That's just not true. They're not selfish. They're not arrogant. They're a healthy mechanism to help relationships be the best that they can be. They're also not just a way of saying no. Boundaries aren't about saying no to everything. They're about having healthy separation between one. Now, the four most important types of boundaries. The first one is a boundary of protection. Hold your arm out in front of you, hold your hand up like a stop sign. That's a boundary of protection. 2 feet of space that you get to operate in. Boundaries of protection are about what you will allow or tolerate from other people, to you, with you, for you, around you, near you, all that kind of stuff. Boundary of containment, the second one, is about a millimeter outside your skin. And that boundary, a boundary of containment, says what's mine is mine, and I don't have the right to spew it onto somebody else. So if you're having a bad day and your kids come running through the room, not necessarily doing anything wrong, and you lose it on them, that's a loss of a containment boundary. You are now spewing stuff onto other people that they don't deserve. Third boundary, a boundary around your thoughts, what you allow yourself to think. So, for example, if somebody uh, finds themselves going down this thought trail that always leads them to a bad place and they don't do anything about it, that's a lack of a thought boundary. They're not practicing boundaried thinking. They're basically on autopilot at that point. The fourth one is a boundary of responsibility, being able to tell what is your responsibility and what is somebody else's. I run into this all the time with clients, and being able to understand uh, who's responsible for what, whether it's emotions, whether it's a physical responsibility, whether it's information, whether it's the past, it's a big deal. Some people, when they first learn boundaries, they think, oh, well, I have a boundary about that, so I need to tell them to stop. Well, you can make that request, but boundaries aren't used to control the actions or behaviors of other people. They govern our own behavior. They're really about self control. So if you're standing outside of a restaurant or a business and somebody comes out and lights up a cigarette and you have a boundary about cigarette smoke, should you use your boundary to tell them to put the cigarette out or stop? No. You use your feet and move. That's you, your boundaries governing your behavior. You practicing self control, not controlling other people with your boundaries. Boundaries are a good thing, they're a healthy thing, and they're a necessary thing to have in relationships. So there you go, Boundaries 101.